Hi there, my name is Carrie Sinefsky, and I am the Professional Liability Director at IIAT, and we are excited to start a new series called Know Your E&O.
My name is Carrie Wallace. I'm a business consultant working with IIAT, and I'm excited to talk about mergers and acquisitions today.
I'm Gunnar Kephart. I'm a professional liability specialist with IIAT, having been here for almost 10 years. We're happy to talk about E&O today. Part one is mergers and acquisitions, the E&O considerations involved in them. With the recent activity in agency mergers and acquisitions, we thought it appropriate to discuss some E&O considerations for those who might be considering a sale, a purchase, or a merger, and some other ways that agencies should plan and prepare. In part one of our two-part series, Carrie, can you share some general thoughts about how E&O issues are involved in the transfer of agency assets?
Absolutely. There's so much to talk about, but we're going to limit it to about 3 points today. So the first one I wanted to talk about is no matter whether you're the seller, the buyer, or a merger partner, you'll want to address E&O issues as early as possible in the process. In the due diligence checklist I've seen, E&O is usually number 15 or 16 on the list, and really it should be much higher on the list. And let me tell you a little bit why that is. So E&O discovery should be part of the evaluation process, just like analyzing the financials. E&O loss run should be examined, as well as the coverage details of each party's policy, and the E&O evaluation can then be taken into consideration when the buy-sell merger agreement is drafted.
Carrie Wallace, you have a comment about that in addition, right?
I sure do. I couldn't agree more, Carrie. You know, agencies in many cases, that's their largest asset is their agency. And for that reason, it's incredibly important for that owner to fully understand the value of their agency, what's driving the value, the factors that are impacting the value of their agency before they engage in a buy-sell agreement. You know, too often agency owners assume their value is a multiple of revenue. And honestly, that kind of assumption could be very costly mistake. So I agree. They absolutely should take the time to understand the factors inside their agency.
Would it be correct to say that an evaluation of each party's E&O record and coverage could reveal an overall sense of the agency's strength of processes and E&O risk management?
That's absolutely right, and that brings me to the second point, Gunnar. You'll want to involve your E&O provider as early as possible in the discussions to make sure that coverage can be provided as you and the other parties intend, and to ensure that there's no gaps in coverage. It's natural to want to keep a potential transaction like this confidential right up to the date of sale and sometimes even afterwards, but ugly surprises can be avoided by including your E&O provider early in the process. You know, E&O providers, and those who work in E&O know the importance of confidentiality, so you can eliminate that fear of something being disclosed early.
Carrie, you may have an idea about an ugly surprise. What's an ugly surprise?
Well, an ugly surprise could be that an agency owner expects to purchase the entire agency and then learns that there are producer-owned books of business inside the agency, or that there are some current E&O claims that are outstanding and they're not aware of. So it's incredibly important for both the buyer and the seller to be aware of all the factors, risks, and potential upsides to a deal before they enter into an agreement, and going through the process of evaluation allows them to highlight all of those areas.
Yeah, and to add to that, another ugly surprise, Gunnar, could be an unrealistic expectation or requirement by one of the parties. For example, some carriers refuse to add additional named insureds to their policies, even though some buyers make that request as part of their agreement. So it's best to address these issues early rather than waiting until the last minute.
Carrie, you mentioned that there were 3 points. What is the third point you wanted to make about mergers and acquisitions?
Yeah, I think something that gets underestimated is that agency ownership transfers can be very complicated. And it's best to use an attorney with specialized experience in this field. Each E&O policy is unique, and E&O carriers have differing underwriting rules and conditions regarding ownership transfers that need to be considered. And so the only way to be comfortable with E&O issues is to read each policy to be sure that the conditions are being met to continue or that coverage is terminated correctly. Most attorneys have a good overall understanding of the E&O considerations involved in the transaction, but the policy itself must be consulted.
Got it.
I would agree, Carrie. From the seller's perspective, selling your agency isn't something you do every day. And, so for that reason, it's important for the buyer and the sellers to have the right advice, have all the information they need available to them so they can make informed decisions that are best for all parties involved.
In part 2, we'll address some of the nuts and bolts of E&O considerations when transferring agency ownership. Remember, the IIAT E&O team is on your side in these situations. Please let us know if you have questions regarding any E&O issues that may arise. We are dedicated to your success. Thanks.